Right now on the National Weather Desk, polar plunge. Arctic air descends on the U.S., bringing cold and snow across much of the nation.
It spills down into the eastern, the southeastern part of the United States.
Where's the snow? Places that normally measure it by the foot are waiting for flakes.
With no snow on the streets, trees, sledding hills, or even Humphreys Peak.
Disappearing drought. West Virginia starts the new year with good news, but many farmers are still worried.
A lot of people are having to sell their cattle because they don't have any hay.
On thin ice. See how firefighters saved a dog that ran into a dangerous situation.
He came through it, and he seems to be fine. So that was the gift that the fireman gave to me.
And why do your lips get so chapped in the winter?
From our nation's capital, this is the National Weather Desk.
Good morning and welcome to the National Weather Desk. I'm meteorologist Matt Ritter. This is shaping up to be a very impactful weather weekend. Winter weather descending from Canada will bring bitter cold, snow, and ice to a large swath of the nation. Right now, winter storm watches and warnings stretch from Kansas to the New Jersey coast. The worst of the snow will start Sunday in the plains and continue into early Monday, with up to a foot possible in many places. The heaviest snow will be in central Illinois, Indiana, and western Ohio. The area just south of that will likely see significant icing. The storm system will move into the mid-Atlantic by Monday, bringing the chance of plowable snow to areas like Washington and Baltimore. And it's already snowing in many places this morning, thanks to a different system. This is what the roads look like in Kalamazoo, Michigan this morning. They're under a winter weather advisory until the early hours of tomorrow morning. Syracuse, New York is facing a likely lake effect snow warning until early Sunday morning. And another 1 to 2 feet could accumulate with locally higher amounts. And that lake effect snow is also blanketing Erie, Pennsylvania, and surrounding areas. One of the key causes of lake effect snow is the temperature difference between the air and the water in the Great Lakes themselves. For example, the temperature of Lake Ontario is in the low 40s, while the air about a mile up is approximately 5 degrees. That's much greater than the 23-degree difference needed to produce lake effect snow. The snow is already causing problems in upstate New York, where multiple traffic accidents across the Albany area, including one truck that slid into telephone wires. There was also a minor power outage, but no serious injuries. And in Colorado, a police officer captured blizzard-like conditions on a dash cam. This is in the Rocky Mountains, about 90 minutes southwest of Denver. The conditions were so bad, portions of the highway had to be shut down. And it's going to feel like winter across much of the country next week, thanks to what meteorologists call the polar vortex. Even cities across the south, from Texas to Florida, will feel the cold. Birmingham meteorologist Evan Chikvara has more on this Arctic plunge.
By definition, a vortex is just a whirlwind or air or fluid moving about. And that's exactly what we have at the poles constantly. So this is looking at the North Pole, the northern hemisphere. There's always an area of pressure here that exists at the north and at the south poles. It's a low pressure. Now, during the summertime, obviously, the polar air here, it hardly exists at all. Same thing on the flip side with the southern hemisphere. But in the winter, it's a very strong, very influential air mass. So it exists here, several miles above the surface, and you have this boundary of Arctic air. In between there, this is our barrier. We talk about the jet stream a lot. This is what separates our air masses. Relatively warmer continental air to the south, and very cold either polar or Arctic air to the north. Now, when there's a disturbance in this flow about the poles, sometimes you get a secondary low. Sometimes you get a ridge of high pressure that displaces this air. Now you have a setup where cold air comes in. So that vortex, that spinning of really cold air that's at the poles, is no longer kept at just the poles. It spills down into the eastern, the southeastern part of the United States. This is our setup next week, and this is why it is going to be so cold. This happens a lot in January, sometimes in February.
And Thursday was very windy and a mainly dry day across parts of northern New England. However, it was a different story for many high elevation mountains and ski resorts. Those areas saw heavy snow. So why did the snow pile up in some of those areas and not others? Meteorologist Ryan Munn explains.
Heavy snow fell across many ski resorts due to something known as upslope snow. A strong wind blew in from the west throughout the day, and as the air flows over the mountaintops, clouds develop, moisture forms, and eventually we get snow on the western facing side of the mountains and the mountaintops. Then the wind blows over the mountains, it goes down the eastern side, the air eventually expands and warms, and the snow will quickly dissipate due to the lack of moisture.
And just in time for this weather, a solution for anyone tired of pulling out the snow shovel during the winter. This Erie, Pennsylvania man is elated over a gift from his family, a remote control snowplow, complete with a small shovel attachment. While not a replacement for a real plow, it's certainly helpful when a little snow falls. Now, one area that's not seeing any snow right now is Flagstaff, Arizona. And this is the time of the year when a lot of people head there to the Arizona mountains to enjoy the colder weather and the snow. Problem is, Flagstaff has not seen significant snowfall in weeks. Chase Golightly has that story.
Unless you stepped outside, you wouldn't believe it was winter here in Flagstaff, with no snow on the streets, trees, sledding hills, or even Humphreys Peak. And it has some visitors a little disappointed.
Still very fun, but I really would want snow.
The Rushton family traveled here from Florida wanting to see the Grand Canyon and some snow.
We would have loved that, even if it was just a flurry, something magical for us Floridians. That would be very, very nice.
It's not just visitors.
This season is just, it's dry.
Luciana Esfeliza, who lives in Flagstaff, also wishes they had it, even with all the work snow comes with.
Yeah, it sucks to shovel, but I'd rather have snow.
Saying Flagstaff just isn't the same this time of year without it.
To go play in snow, go snowboard. We can snowboard now, but it's rough.
But Flagstaff Winter Park and Arizona Snow Bowl are the only places that have snow, because they make it themselves.
They are working around the clock. Whenever cool temperatures allow, they are out there making snow.
Angie Grubb with Snow Bowl says they're still busy, even though not all of their trails are open because of the lack of snow.
Definitely experiencing some La Nina conditions. Typically throughout December, we usually see a drier year, and then a lot of our snowfall tends to come in January, February, and even March.
With skiers and snowboarders noticing a difference.
This late in the season, it's usually like there's pretty good snow, but now it was kind of surprising.
At this point of the time, it's not the best it could be. But it works.
Still, they're enjoying what they have and hoping for more snow as the season goes on.
Yeah, I had a blast.
Great day. Can't complain for the time of year.
Now, turning to West Virginia and some good news to start off the new year. After a year of drought conditions, agriculture concerns, and worries about water supplies in some cities and towns, while the latest U.S. drought monitor shows most of the state is drought-free, Bob Aaron reports farmers are still feeling the impact of a very dry 2024.
While there are still patches listed as abnormally dry or moderate drought in northern and eastern West Virginia and a tiny section of McDowell County, the January 1st U.S. Drought Monitor shows the drought is over in our West Virginia viewing area and the bulk of the state. After a year so dry, it saw a lot of farmers in several towns run into serious water problems. 2024 saw Richwood having to take steps to conserve water. Thomas had the same kind of problems, and Pine Grove had to cancel school at Valley High School because it ran so low on water.
Yeah, Bob, September 27th, last week of September, that's when the drought was at its worst. We had widespread extreme to exceptional drought. Since then, we've vastly improved. But by the numbers, we're still below where we should be. Charleston's still 5 inches below where we should be.
Muddy and wet now, a large chunk of 2024 forced farmers to feed hay early, cut the amount of hay they could get, and made it pricey. While mud may have replaced the dust of summer and early fall, farmers are still paying a price for that drought when it comes to feeding their animals.
Hay prices are still sky high if you got to buy hay. A lot of people are having to sell their cattle because they don't have any hay.
Since 1900, West Virginia has experienced several noteworthy droughts, including one in 1988. During the drought of 1930-31, nearly 100% of the state experienced what currently would be referred to as exceptional drought for 8 months.
And how would you like to buy this sailboat for just $1? You can, but there's a catch. The owner ran into bad weather while sailing from the Dominican Republic to Florida. The boat eventually ran aground at New Smyrna Beach. He's been given 30 days to remove it or face hefty fines and possible jail time. So he's selling it for $1, but you have to get it off the beach. He says you'll have to do it by land, and those costs could run $20,000 to $25,000. And coming up on the National Weather Desk, we'll show video of a dramatic rescue of a dog that fell into a frozen pond.
window, presented by the National Weather Desk.
The ever-popular Northern Lights made a brief appearance in Maine on New Year's Eve before clouds moved in. In Washington, the Tatoosh Mountains peeked through the fog on New Year's Day. Snowy vistas of the Grand Tetons on Thursday, and Aspen got a coating of new snow. Also, an early glimmer of sun through an icicle in Salt Lake City.
For more content like this, subscribe to the National Weather Desk's YouTube channel.
Reported cases of the most severe outbreak among white-tailed deer in Iowa since 2012. It has officials in the state concerned about local deer populations. Maddie Lee has more.
EHD has the ability to really drastically impact deer populations in the short term, meaning that at the property or neighborhood scale, deer populations can be decimated very quickly.
Deer biologist Jace Elliott from the Iowa DNR notes that 94 of Iowa's 99 counties have reported at least one case. Southeast Iowa-based DNR officer Dan Henderson says,
I know the closest we have around here, Wapello and Davis counties have had positives. One thing we can do as hunters is not put out bait. By putting out bait and corn and all that stuff and getting all those deer to concentrate in one area, that's actually when your disease spread is more prominent.
Carcasses found near water in late summer to early fall and in groups of more than one are almost certainly EHD related. The Iowa DNR has introduced new tools in response to the outbreak.
These tools include a public reporting tool, and that tool allows those folks to get that data to our department. And there's also a dashboard that folks can look at that sort of shows the distribution of reports throughout the state as the outbreaks occur.
And we often talk about the dangers of ice in the winter. Falling into a frozen pond or lake could be life-threatening. And that was the case for a dog that was rescued from frozen water in Rhode Island last week. Gabrielle Caracciolo has the story.
Lay down, buddy, lay down. Lay down. You all right? You lay down for me?
Body cam video captures first responders in Little Compton comforting a dog in the back of a rescue.
Coming to life, Otto. You're getting warmer.
They did such a great job, but it was just really scary.
Nancy Clark's dog Otto was saved from icy waters.
You know, I was just really afraid that he was just going to die in front of my eyes.
He ran after a bird and fell through the ice on Long Pond on Christmas Day.
Luckily, he's in a thick coat, though.
This is the time of the year that happens when the ice is pretty thin.
Fire Chief Richard Petrin says the dog was about 50 yards from shore, and when firefighters arrived, the family was trying to rescue him themselves. While he understands the instinct, that's not recommended.
Call the fire department. You shouldn't venture out on the ice at all. The only ice that's safe is ice that's in ice rinks, as far as I'm concerned. We train every year for ice rescues, and so we deployed two firefighters with the ice rescue sled to get the dog. A successful rescue. They put the dog in the back of the rescue and dried it off, warmed it up.
Stuff happens. All that matters is he's gonna be good.
Clark says she's forever grateful for their help, especially on Christmas.
But he came through it, and he seems to be fine. So that was the gift that the firemen gave to me.
And snow season is here. Have you ever noticed things often seem quieter when it snows? There is a scientific reason for this. Meteorologist Mitchell Coombs explains.
Let me explain how snow got the nicknames nature's earplugs and nature's headphones. The most common type of snowflake is known as a dendrite. This photo from Paula Buchanan shows great examples of what dendritic snowflakes look like. They each have 6 arms and oftentimes have plenty of nooks and crannies. These gaps are very efficient at catching sound as the snow is falling. So as the sound is passing through these snowflakes, it creates a dampening effect before that sound reaches our ears. It doesn't matter if the sound comes from a car, a snowblower, or even the animals out in nature, the dampening effect will be just the same. The quieting effect will continue even after the snow ends as long as you remain in a fresh snowpack. The piled up dendrites will continue to catch sound even on the ground. The lighter and fluffier the snow, the greater the sound dampening effects will be. However, the same cannot be said for a dirty, old snowpack. As the snowflakes melt, they begin to lose their dendritic structure and the arms start to close off. This diminishes the amount of sound that can be captured, lowering the dampening effects. Eventually, all sound levels will go back to normal.
Now, for many people, when it snows, there's nothing like sitting in front of a fireplace. But if not cared for properly, fireplaces can cause a real risk. Dirty chimneys spark nearly 25,000 fires each year. Sade Ray looks at what you need to do to make sure your chimney is safe to use all winter long.
When the temperatures drop, some people opt to use a fireplace to help stay warm. But there are some things to keep in mind to keep your home safe.
You usually have a lot of damage when you have chimney fires.
Walton County Fire Rescue Battalion Chief Christopher Brown says chimney fires can go unnoticed, which can cause more damage. That damage can be expensive.
Depending on the size of the home or the extent of damage, you could talk about thousands of dollars, or it could be the entire home. You could lose the entire home with that.
Brandon Maxwell is the co-owner of ARC Chimney Sweeps. He says causes of chimney fires can include soot building from burning wood.
So as you continue to burn wood and use your fireplace, that soot will accumulate on the inner walls and the workings of that system up top. So once you get so much buildup to where that can overheat, that will actually be what ignites. So that is like the fuel that starts most chimney fires.
Maxwell tells me storms and hurricanes can cause damage to chimney pipes.
And we want to make sure that all that's properly connected so that all the heat and all the smoke is allowed to escape like it's supposed to out of the top of that cap.
To lower the risk of chimney fires,
before you actually do your first fire on a brand new home, or every year, you should get your chimney inspected by a certified chimney inspector to make sure it is safe before you start the burning season.
He says have a bird cage at the top of the chimney to keep bird nests out. Those nests can catch fire in chimney stacks.
And when it's cold, it's not just your chimney that poses a risk. You've no doubt seen the signs that say bridge freezes or ices before the roadway. Meteorologist Chapstick Clark explains what that means in this recent TikTok post.
Here you are on the road, right? And then right about here, you're probably going to find that sign and it's going to be like, oh yeah, bridge freezes or ices before roadway. Then you're on the bridge. So let's go ahead and take note of a couple things. So you've got some cold air that is moving below and above that bridge. So now you've got that entire bridge or that overpass surrounded by that cold air. So you've got that road that is so thick, and it's going to take a lot longer for that surface to cool down and ice over compared to the bridge where it's surrounded by that cold air. It doesn't have that surface to really trap in that heat. So that's when we're going to see that surface of the bridge to ice over quickly before that road.
Time now for a short break, but first we take flight over Norton, Virginia and the Flag Rock Recreation Area.
The National Weather Desk.
It's that time of year where dry skin and chapped lips start to become a problem. Meteorologist Christina Ernie shows us weather's role in causing this uncomfortable condition.
Chapstick, chapstick, chapstick. Chapped lips this time of year? Awful. This is the time of the year that chapped lips are a pain, literally. This time of the year, we start to see those cold temperatures work in, which dries out our skin, which is why our skin and our lips get so chapped. Also, you might not be thinking of it, but since it's not so hot out, you might not be drinking as much water, so you're actually getting dehydrated, which is why your skin is getting so dry. And another reason, a lack of humidity. Once you start to crank up the heat in your house, that dries out our skin as well. So instead of just getting used to chapped lips, here's what you can do. Number one, make sure that even when you turn the heat on in your house, you're keeping the house humid. So maybe have a humidifier on when you're sleeping. Also, make sure that you're moisturizing your skin, especially your lips, especially before you go to bed as well, so they can heal. Finally, if you go outside and it's windy and cold, protect your lips.